Why don't we just call this budget hearing back to order and turn it over to our auditor, Nicholas Parker. Floor is yours. Yep.
The Department of Economic and Workforce Development and Workforce Development Grants Budget Analysis is presented under tab 52 in your books. The proposed fiscal year 2020 budgets for the Department of Economic and Workforce Development and Workforce Development Grants total approximately $20.8 million, a decrease of $34.6 million or 62.4% from the fiscal year 2019 budget. The general fund portion increases by approximately $132,000 or 9.7%, primarily due to the addition of 2 mid-year fiscal year 2019 positions. The special fund portion of the budget decreases by approximately $34.7 million or 64.3%, primarily due to a decrease in drawdowns of the Economic Development Revolving Financing Fund, for example, Towson Row, and a one-time fiscal year 2019 $20 million federal grant to TradePoint Atlantic. Based on our analysis, we have identified one potential budget reduction. The reduction proposes eliminating $2 million in PAYGO funding for the Economic Development and Innovative Strategies Initiative within the Economic Development Revolving Financing Fund. Since detail is not yet available for the specific use of this funding, this potential reduction would eliminate funding for this new initiative. Once detail becomes available, the administration could request approval of a supplemental appropriation from general fund surplus for the intended purpose. In addition, this analysis details 3 significant policy changes: the financing fund, tourism, and the county's anchor strategy, which begin on page 7, and 3 other issues, including workforce development, TradePoint Atlantic, and other major redevelopment projects, beginning on page 13. At this time, I would like to turn it over for discussion.
And Mr. Anderson, how are you today?
I'm doing wonderfully, Mr. Chairman. How are you?
Peachy, just peachy. Why don't you just address the auditor's, points and possible deletions, and then maybe go through some of the questions, and then we'll open up for discussion.
I'm happy to, Mr. Chairman. Members of the council, thank you for spending your afternoon talking about our budget. I know we have a lot of time allotted to cover our entire unit, and we deeply appreciate it. I brought my deputy, Susan Gehring-Leiker, who spent a lot of time working on this with our auditors, Lauren and Nick. Thank you for all the time you spent working on this. Keith Dorsey's team, Ed Blades, and Rich Sturba particularly helped get us to this spot. I think we have several of our folks from economic development here. So we really appreciate, including the CAO and the Deputy Administrative Officer who all worked on this. So we appreciate it. I'd like to make some intro remarks, cover each of the 3 units, and then go after the point that Nick made about the Economic Development Fund. So our agency is really responsible for a wide variety of things related to quality of life. And when you think about our agency and some of the projects that we've all worked on over the past few years, it's really about revenue generation for the county. And 2/3 of the essential revenues that come into Baltimore County are directly related to the kind of work we do in our agency that drive principally the property tax and income tax and other revenues that also support quality of life. When you look at the units, it's business development, workforce development, and tourism. All of them have a bolder agenda in the new administration, as you saw in the transition report, and I'll get into it in individual pieces. But when you look at the customers of our agency, it's businesses, it's investors, developers, job seekers, policymakers, statewide partners, visitors, and really just residents that are benefiting from our tourism assets. So it's a wide variety of customers for a very small agency of 50-some people and a very small budget relative to the size of our government. Some of the things that we talked about over the past 4 years were big issues, that many of which have been resolved in our department. We had an integrated agency that really was not functioning at a high level. That has changed. We're doing a lot for our employers and our job seekers in the same programming. Federal legislation and budget cuts to our workforce that was hanging over our head, much of that has been held at bay. Some of the local funding has helped to be a little bit of an insurance to our jobs programs. We've had stalled development activity. As you all know, we have development rolling in all of your districts. We were doing very little lending to our local businesses 5 years ago, and that is moving along at a great pace, and we're looking at expanding those programs. And we really didn't have local funding to determine local projects, so we've been doing a lot of things ad hoc together. Part of what you're seeing in this economic development fund line item in the budget is about being more proactive in that space as we're trying to stand up projects in your districts. So we've got local business growing, we've got more development, we've got lending, we've got job training, we've got 4% unemployment. Things are going along nicely. This is a great time to double down with the new administration on some proactive programming. So that's what you're going to see is a new blueprint coming out of each of our 3 units. And I think they all impact residents in your districts, and we're eager to work on the whole open and transparent nature of what's been going on under Johnny's administration. It's perfect for us to build out these actual strategic plans together in an open and transparent way with your constituents. We have some massive projects with Councilman Crandall over at Trade Point, and we have some small but important projects in every one of your main streets that all need attention in the economic development realm. And our communities are kind of asking us to be more proactive in those spaces where we sort of let the market take care of itself. Particularly on the jobs, talent is still the #1 issue that when you talk to businesses in your districts that they're looking for help, and our Job Connector program and our other workforce programming supports it. And then lastly, on tourism, launching a new strategy, you could say launching a strategy, really. I mean, we've had Restaurant Week, and we've had support for Fleet Week when Fleet Week was here. We have not had a proactive tourism strategy, and I think that's one of the biggest changes that you're seeing in this budget coming before you. And there's ways to take that tourism and our main streets and arts and entertainment and cultural pieces and sort of dogpile together and make it better for our residents and for visitors. So what I'd like to do is go through them one at a time and then field all the questions, and I'll start with the ones that have the most significant money changes in the budget. And the first is a new charge in economic development. The last time we had an economic development strategy developed was 2010. And when you look at that document, it's more of an inventory of our asset neighborhoods and our industries. It does not say what we should be doing to support them. The kind of programs that you're hearing from residents all the time is not baked into an economic blueprint, and that's what we're going to be building. A key piece of that is leveraging our anchor institutions. One of the initiatives that we've already kicked off is actually standing up a new position and hiring an economic development person strictly for anchor institutions, and that is our federal, our education, and our medical institutions that are anchors in the community. And there's 2 ways we should be going with them. We should be helping to support their growth and hiring for their sake, and we should be helping them tie into local suppliers and local hiring of our residents for our sake. So there are ways to do that in really modern, smart, innovative ways that are happening all around the country that we need to adopt here in Baltimore County because our anchor institutions would like to see us more engaged. And you're already seeing that. Skills is probably the biggest thing that's changing in our economy, whether we like it or not, or whether we can control it or not. And we do not have the luxury of sort of sitting back and seeing that rapid change of skills go by many of our residents. So we need to be working on the job front in a new way with our partners at CCBC and the school system. And we also need to be supporting small business, kind of the heart of our economy, and tying that into our neighborhoods and our tourism program. I know when you think about what economic development means to you all in your districts, and you all have told me this for years, that you want to see a proactive strategy, that you don't want people to have to come find us when they need us, but that you want us out there helping people grow, start businesses, and it's important to them. It's important to every town in our county. We're at a moment in this budget where we've gone from being hamstrung in economic development. You know, if you go to our partners down in Howard, they're twice as big of an economic development program. Our partners at the city are 3 times larger than our economic development in Baltimore County. And this is the first budget where that's actually changing. Even in a budget where we know it's so tight, we're making really important critical decisions about cuts and increases. To see economic development grow even slightly is a step in the right direction for growing our economy, and it's a long-term play. Let me get into a couple of things directly in the budget. The first thing you'll see out of us is the strategic planning with our blueprint. We're going to be putting a lot of energy into that starting this summer for a new blueprint. We'll be working with each of you and your staffs. You'll see a regional approach. There is a couple of endeavors going on in the region. Greater Baltimore Committee, Cal Butler at BGE, many of the leaders in the region are working on regional economic development plans, which is how our companies live across the lines and how our citizens move across the lines on their way to work. We're going to be tying into those. You're going to see that we have professional service funds for strategic plans in really key areas like Pikesville, where the development plans are moving forward. Things that we've been doing at Towson Row and at Trade Point, those proactive studies, they need to continue. They really do. When you think about Northwest Hospital expanding and how can we capitalize on that and get our residents to benefit from it, that takes some proactive spending in terms of how we tie into those groups and how we support and get our people tied into them. We've also added a West Side development rep. So Jessica Normington just joined our team. She's joining our team. She's doing a transition from the Pikesville Chamber, but she's going to be covering businesses on the West Side. Todd Dolben, our senior manager, will now just guide the whole team. She'll cover that geographic territory, but that's fantastic. So we got Chris McCullum coming in on the anchor work, and Jessica coming. That's significant for my little department to have 2 new people on the economic development side. When we look to the money and Nick's comment about the Economic Development Fund, so those are dollars that have obviously been appropriated years ago in our revolving loan fund. So this is not a difficult decision to leave them in this budget and not follow that proposed cut. This is giving us flexibility to be proactive on projects. And when I say projects, I'm thinking of things like what we've done with McCormick, Councilman Ketch, or what we're looking, Hopkins is expanding in our area, the Hunt Valley Town Center. Those type of proactive projects are what this type of fund is dedicated to. So I know Nick mentioned we don't have a line-by-line strategic plan on where those dollars go. That's not how those projects unfold, unfortunately. We need to be working with partners to go get what we want in terms of development. So that's my note on the cut to the fund. That's not recommended that we cut that $2 million. The other side of the lending is our Boost Fund. So I know you all have seen us make these. This is our video lottery terminal, so it's gambling money from the state. And we've been very successful at taking these loans and aiming at small, minority, women, veteran-owned businesses in all of your districts. And as we've been doing that over the years, we've been building up, as the payments come back, interest and fees that the county has just never taken. Although the state has been encouraging us to take those fees, appropriate them, and use them to market back out to businesses. So that's that other line item that you see in there around the Boost Fund. I'd like to jump to tourism and talk about why this matters. If you looked at the tourism study, and I'd really encourage you to take a look just even at the executive summary. We have a lot of detail in that study, But we commissioned that to look at what does a professional tourism program look like, and what would the return on investment be for this county? Why should we even care? Now, we have people in the hoteliers, we have tourism company owners who have been frustrated for years that the county hasn't been an active player. And we haven't. We just have not been an active player like so many of our neighboring jurisdictions have. But we wanted to start with this report that shows you economically why should we care. So there's the potential to drive a $7 billion business in Baltimore County over the next 10 years. And that covers a wide span of tourism businesses. That's the why we need to do it. It's an industry that will flourish more with our support, and it's a massive return on investment. But it also gets us what we need in terms of business growth, supply chain along these companies, a ton of jobs, not just seasonal jobs, but annual jobs, and quality of life for our own residents. So as we improve these things for visitors, we're improving them for our own residents. So it's kind of a win-win. So what are we doing about this? We're at a spot where we need to be doing the fundamentals in tourism. We need a game plan. We have proof that this is worth being in this business. We need a game plan. We need an investment source. And that's why there's been so much talk about the hotel tax, the Airbnb tax. Where do other jurisdictions fund their marketing for their tourism programs? And then we need to become a serious tourism organization because generating stories and promoting and doing marketing in areas where it's going to net real benefit for our tourism industry is not just a website and a brochure and showing up at an event. It's a serious business that pays off dividends. So there's things we know about in our tourism industry like Guinness. Guinness is going to exceed that 300,000 visitor mark in its first year. But we also have Inverness up in the north part of the county. We have a lot of unknown, untapped tourism assets that we need to not only support their businesses, but the ones that feed in around it, like Bordy and other places. We have known things like Hampton Mansion, and then we have unknown things, like we have the only, the only commercial kosher kitchen of any flagged hotel on the East Coast at the Hilton. And is that a big deal? Well, 1,000 people just came to a barbecue there for this kosher kitchen because it was the only one of its kind. And are we doing anything to market it? They're marketing it fine themselves, but there's a lot of business that can be generated there for folks that need that amenity and they can't find it anywhere else. We have Aviation Station is going to be the kind of thing everybody is talking about. Councilwoman Bevins, the way we've been talking about Trade Point Atlantic for all these years, that's real. And when that comes, the tourism that comes there benefits our residents, your citizens, is at Middle River Depot. But it's also going to draw people from up and down the East Coast with what's coming there. And we really need to be proactive in helping it to happen, not just watch it happen and smile, but actually have a better impact on the county. Sports tourism is a massive thing in our report. When you look at that, it's one of the reasons why Director Barry Williams in Rec and Parks and I are looking at what more can we do for our citizens and to draw in sports tournaments, big business stuff in tourism, that he's looking at his asset, the footprint he has in fields and seeing what we should be doing in that area. And you tie in arts and entertainment and culture. Yes, we make a lot of investments in our region. We make cultural investments in our city, and some of those things you're seeing that we're making them this year. We're not cutting people off at the knees, but you're also going to see those investments are declining starting this year, and a number of them are maturing out for out years. So that leaves money for us to be making more directly into county promotion. There's things we could be chasing. We could be chasing smaller conferences that draw in really unique things. When we have the PGA tournaments, we should be curating packages for families to come in and take them all around the county when we know there's a whole host of people who are not there for the golf. We should be doing the same thing with Towson University Sports, UMBC, Stevenson, up at US Lacrosse. We're not doing that kind of proactive curation and promotion, and that's really what a good destination marketing organization does. If you want to look by way of comparison, up the road in Harford County, they have a destination marketing organization. So does the city. So does Howard County. So does Anne Arundel County. So does Montgomery County. So does Prince George's County. And they're not doing it because it's fun. They're doing it because it's good business for the county and for their tourism businesses. I think that's all I'd like to say on tourism. You see there's a bump in there of $232,000 over last year, and as we go through into the coming year, I think we're going to see those revenues going up. The last thing I'll talk about is workforce. And when you frame workforce in the county, it's like the country. 4% unemployment, and yet each one of you know in your councilmatic districts families that are not benefiting from a booming economy. We know families that are struggling. And we also know that automation is truly changing the nature of jobs. 30% of all jobs are going to be affected by automation. It doesn't mean they're going to be wiped out by automation, but they're going to be radically transformed. That's a massive number that we don't have the luxury of not engaging with. When you look at our federal dollars in workforce, that's 95% of our workforce budget, and that is forever uncertain under this president. Every year we're looking at a potential threat to cut workforce budgets completely. So we're in a stable situation, but we're always kind of holding our breath that we may have to undo our whole workforce program. And now that we have some local dollars, we can do things like youth projects, apprenticeships, on-the-job training, where we couldn't do that with just federal funds directly. A couple highlights of what's been happening in workforce. Things you may be interested in is, this summer we're adding 50 new paid youth internships this summer. We've been engaging with Employers First to get those placements ready before we get the all-call for people to fill those. We're working with the school system on an in-school program. We're working with the community college on actually integrating our career development programs so that while their students are still on campus, we're tying them into employers. That does not happen right now. We have very siloed systems across our education and our workforce system. But we know we had a good year when we look at some of the big things that happened. GM was tough. GM was very tough, that closure. We fought to keep it open. And as they went to a closure 2 weeks ago, we helped prepare those 300 people for careers right here. So we helped get them placed in employers that are right in their own community. And it was several months' worth of work, but folks rallied, and we were happy to help get them to land. When Amazon came, they do things their own way out at Trade Point, as the councilman will tell you. And yet they were hiring 800 people in one swoop, and we've got nearly 2/3 of them placed through our team for Baltimore County citizens, which was a push to just make sure that we had our foot in the door and all the people we wanted to bring in for those jobs, including, these are all jobs that are $15 an hour now, but we were marshaling this when these jobs were uncertain on what level those wages would be. But that was a huge success. So things are going along nicely in workforce. The big thing you're seeing us do, and you see me come before this microphone, is to have you appropriate new grants that we've been chasing. So we brought in a grant for opioid addiction. This was workforce post-opioid treatment, which is great. I know we have a lot of things that Dr. Branch is bringing in on opioids. We did one on older workers that we're just teeing up now, and we've done them in the construction fields. We are chasing money in a whole new way with our grants operation, so you'll see us bring more of that in. So I think that's the remarks I wanted to point to. The one proposed cut that has been recommended is something that we're strongly against. What it would do would be to hamstring us to go after projects that we've enjoyed similar success with all of you over the past few years. It's really not a necessary cut as well. I appreciate that the auditor's office found something to recommend, but it's something that we really think would be detrimental to economic development, particularly in this county. But with that, I'd love to take questions. And,
Just to be clear, we don't recommend cuts. We just identify potential reductions.
Okay. Thank
Coun-
you. Thank you.
Councilman Marks?
Well, the potential reduction.
Thank you very much, Will. So one of the issues that I raised several years ago, I think only Councilwoman Bevins and Councilman Cork were here when I talked about this, was our funding of very small cultural institutions in other jurisdictions. I understand the need to support the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra, the Aquarium, the large institutions that in particular attract a lot of students from Baltimore County. But I look at the budget and we're giving $10,000 to Ladue Topiary Gardens in Harford County, and I see that the Clay Works has popped up again for $7,000, and I just question how many students are going to these institutions. So if someone could provide me with that information, I'd like to know that.
Absolutely. I know we can get all of those data points for you. I think at a macro level, Councilman, the call for a reduction in commitments to our city partners and an increase to our county partners has been loud and clear. And I think you see it in this budget. I think you see it turned and moving in the right direction.
And yeah, but it's not just the city, the Harford County as well. I mean, I don't know how many of our
Gotcha.
residents
Yep.
go to the Ladue Topiary Gardens, you know. Maybe a lot do. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just would like to see
Just
some
another
analysis.
Clay
of that.
Works. This is
Well,
another
the Clay Works
Works.
has popped up here.
They're
Pop
not
back
Clay
down.
Works. It's bad.
Thank you.
Well, I had planned on taking my mother for Mother's Day to Ladue Topiary Gardens. Didn't work out, but I will be.
Councilwoman Bevins?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, you know, even for the larger ones, okay, for instance, the BSO, you know, they were the only ones, I think, that came in, lobbied the council not to cut their budget. Did anyone else come in? I don't think so. But $680,000, and I see that the county executive plans on cutting some of that. Last year, we actually asked for a list of schools and grades that went to the BSO, and I was very disappointed to find out I had one fourth grade class in one of my schools out of the entire school year attend the BSO. So I don't know if the schools aren't engaging the BSO or the BSO is not engaging the schools, but there's definitely a problem with that. So I was led to believe that the BSO has several programs within our schools and our school children go there when that's not the case. So I think that we carefully look at this list, and as Councilman Mark said, and we know that residents of Baltimore County do visit a lot of these larger ones, but the smaller ones, which I've never heard of, and I don't know how much of attendance they receive from Baltimore County, definitely deserves a look.
Thank you.
All right. Councilman Crandall?
Sure. Mr. Anderson, thank you, as always, for the work that you and your staff does. Just recently attended with you the grand opening or the ribbon cutting of the Under Armour facility at Trade Point Atlantic. I was not invited to actually cut the ribbon, but I got to watch you do it.
I was going to mention you weren't in those photos.
I was not in the picture. I wasn't invited up there with the
I was
likes
also not invited in yet.
But I thought
Made
you
my
were
way
up
up.
there. Were you not up there?
I was up there.
Well, see,
Party crasher.
I'm not, I mean, I know the governor and the county executive and Kevin Plank and Ray Lewis and all that, but the two most important people that were there, you and me,
Right.
we weren't invited up to actually cut the ribbon.
I didn't see the invitation list, so I assumed I was on it, and I just walked up there.
So, you know, I mentioned something on a Facebook post that it's good to see the realization of the labor that so many people have put into not only Under Armour, but the growth of Trade Point Atlantic and the work that you have put into it. I mean, it's evident. You can go down there and see it. I mean, there's physical ramifications of the work that the public sector and the private sector has done, and it's actually quite remarkable the progress that's been made in relatively short amount of time.
Well, I think you should take a point of pride there, Councilman. I don't know if you noticed that morning, there were the bus line that you helped bring in, the 63, which we had no buses at Trade Point Atlantic.
Yep.
We've got one. There were 3 buses stacked up of bringing folks to work from Dundalk, and all 3 of them were full. So we
Yeah.
obviously need to add more buses, but the work you helped push forward to get a bus going,
Well,
bus
thank
line
you.
going, people are back to work down there. So it was good to see that really happening even while they were cutting the ribbon.
Yep, absolutely. And I appreciate that. In fact, now that you've said that, I'm not even going to ask you about these proposed reductions.
Thank you.
Is that all it takes?
No.
Did you get- Katie, did you get that?
No, so I guess it's, I've fallen into this, in the budget hearings this year, I've fallen into, I'm going to compliment the department, and then I'm going to ask them some questions. Butter you up first, and then, so I want to go to page 4, number 1.
Here comes the stick.
Go ahead.
The $2 million potential reduction that the auditor has identified. I guess the consternation is, where is this money going? It's not defined.
Mhm.
So obviously the auditor, in bringing it up, that office had some consternation about it, in that where's the accountability for $2 million, and what are we going to, what's your department going to do with this?
It's a great question. On the accountability side, any of those dollars that are spent will come before this council for approval. When we're at $25,000, I'll be sitting here. We'll be talking them over. And then just like with my loans that we make, we have a loan committee that has to get approved before it gets moving along. So we have a lot of accountability built in. For the first question of what are the projects, that's the point, Councilman, is for us to proactively try to build out some programs. You've been a big benefactor of a lot of these programs in the past because of what you've done at Trade Point Atlantic. But there's other places that we need to be more proactive. For example, Chairman Quirk, and the moment we're at with UMBC and the research park, and really doubling down on that, we're not sure directly which pieces of those projects we should be pulling people together and get moving. But we know we have a lot of skin in that game. And without having a proactive opportunity fund, there's very little we can do on the sidelines. So it's really oriented for us to have a proactive economic development program like the council has been asking for all these years.
So the $2 million is, how was that figure arrived? How did we arrive at that $2 million figure? I mean, could we do it for $1 million?
This is just Ed, did you want to jump in?
I just wanted to clarify. Well, the $2 million is directed really toward the economic development and innovative strategies. The $2 million that was set aside
Yes.
for that. Do you want to kind of go into more detail on that program, what the intent is?
Well, that's what I was.
Beyond the economic development revolving loan fund.
That's what I was describing. So if we're going to go after a proactive program, up until this point, we just had the revolving loan fund, right? And we use that fund for a lot of different things, big housing programs. When we're doing a program with the state at Trade Point Atlantic, it was not dollars that were proactively set out there to drive an economic development agenda. They were reactive. So this is really setting aside money that's already been appropriated. That $2 million is not new money. This is money that's already sitting. Okay, so if I'm getting it wrong about the appropriation, Ed, jump in. But the intent of that fund is to have a proactive fund so we can go do programs in your districts, as opposed to waiting for. We hope somebody's going to be attracted to fill in the blank project that we want to get kick-started.
Now, the $2 million that Will's referring to, we did add it to FY20. When we were going through formulation, we did look within the fund to see if we could earmark it from there, and we were more comfortable with adding.
Thank you, Ed.
Okay. Switching gears, and I may be taking some of Councilwoman Bevan's thunder here, because we both represent the Baltimore County waterfront. Have I don't even know how many marinas and waterfront restaurants and things. And I just want to emphasize that, and I know that you don't discriminate and that you care about those businesses. I know that you do, but you didn't mention that in your talk about tourism. And I think our waterfront, because you were on other subjects, so I'm not hitting you too hard on that. But just I want to emphasize the amount of dollars that those businesses bring in to Baltimore County, and you even said it. We have just not done a great job of promoting our waterfront, and tourism in general, but specifically our waterfront businesses.
Yeah.
These are beautiful places with unbelievable views of the Chesapeake Bay, providing access to recreational activities, power boating, sailboating, kayaking, paddle boarding, that whole thing. And I just think that it needs to be a point of emphasis for Baltimore County once and for all. And I can tell you that there are members of that community, the marina owners, the waterfront restaurants. They felt slighted in the study that was produced, and you should know that the listing of the marinas, the yacht clubs, and the waterfront restaurants was incomplete. And a lot of folks in my district, and I think in Kathy's district as well, feel that they're left out once again, and that they're not part of a tourism strategy in Baltimore County. And I'm hoping that your department, with your new charge, can help rectify that and sort of close the wounds, so to speak, that are there and that were opened again when our constituents saw the study and felt slighted once again. So I want to make you aware of it.
I appreciate that. I'm excited that they are chomping at the bit, to be honest with you. The intent of that study was to show that there is a business that needs supporting it. It was not a complete asset inventory, but if you look, when our consultant came back, he gave one of those speeches that was like what a realtor says, location, 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 and he used 3 words: water, water, water. Says you've got your back to your water, and who else has 175 miles of shoreline that they could be turning into a tourist industry? So I'm sorry I didn't emphasize it. You're right, I should have emphasized it, because it really is one of our jewels that should be the first piece of a tourism program. But that study was not to include every marina. That was for us to tee it up for ourselves and now go to the Marina Association, which I appreciate you brought to me earlier this month, and start to build out a program with our hoteliers and folks that are in that business and doing it right. So I'm glad they're teed up, that they wanted to be in there, because they're going to be in the next piece, which is the actual strategic plan.
Okay. And I know that Councilwoman Bevins and I will help you with that effort 100%.
Okay.
Kathy?
Yes, and Mr. Chair.
Chairman Quirk,
Yeah, Ms. Rogers.
and let me emphasize this, Will said it, this is our golden opportunity to comprehensively look at our tourism and investment here in Baltimore County. And the waterfront, even knowing the miles, using it in our marketing and branding part of what we're doing, what's here in Baltimore County that really mirrors the rest of the state. We have it all here, and that's a part of the strategy to encourage others to come here and spend their time and dollars here. So you can rest assured that the waterfront community will be a big part of it as we go forward with the countywide strategic plan, but also with a specific blueprint strategic plan that Will and his team are working on. That's always an asset in any jurisdiction your waterfront is. So please know that it may have been overlooked or underemphasized, but it's an important part of it. We want to look at each part of the county to see where our hidden jewels are that we need to promote and actively invite individuals to come here to our county.
Thank you.
Yes, Councilwoman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I would just like to make a couple of comments as well. Thank you, Councilman Crandall, for bringing that up. I was actually there the day that it was brought up. It was a little uncomfortable. So they saw their little blurb down at the bottom of the page. But two things to know, that I believe the number's 40% of our slips in our marinas are rented by people out of state. That's tourism in itself. They come from Pennsylvania
Absolutely.
and, come down to the Chesapeake Bay. Second, just one event that is no longer my district, but Todd's. It's a sailing regatta. People come from all over. Just that weekend alone, there's not a room, there's not a vacancy in one White Marsh hotel out of 4 hotels. Just one weekend event that brings people from all over fills all of our hotels.
We have, when we talk to some other jurisdictions, Councilwoman, they're amazed at what we have to sell. Many people have to sort of fabricate what they have to sell. We have a rich set of assets to fill hotel rooms. That's already happening. But if we double down on it, maybe we can get you another hotel, fill that up. Maybe we can support our local businesses in Middle River that become connected to sports tourism and that sort of thing. So we definitely appreciate it, and we're late to the game, but we're there now in fiscal 20.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Other questions for Mr. Anderson? Everybody good on the side? Everybody good here? All righty, we're good. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Everybody have a great afternoon.
Thanks.
And Chairman Quirk and
Yes.
council members, if Prince George's can be gorgeous, we can be beautiful.
That's a
Beautiful Baltimore County.
Beautiful
And that's going to be a
Baltimore
part of our
County.
tagline.
Yep. All righty. And then work session at 2 o'clock. Councilman Jones will be chairing. Thanks.